What is up, guys? TopTierYugioh here, and today I've got a Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll deck profile for you guys. And so we all know how powerful these decks are on their own. We all know how good Dogmatika, Invoked, and Shaddolls are, but when you combine them together, you really get the most out of each of these archetypes and engines due to the amazing synergies between them. And I'm going to explain all of that, as well as some of the cool combos, card interactions, plays, and how we're generally going to be winning games with this deck in this deck profile. And so let's just go ahead and get into the profile, but I will say that the best combo is liking this video and subscribing to the channel, because it's a free and easy way to help the channel out, and it makes sure that the new uploads are going to be hitting your subscription fee. And I do upload 2 to 3 times per week, and so you will be entertained, and so be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. But once again, let's get into the profile. So we are going to start with the Shaddoll Engine, since it makes up the bulk of this deck with 18 cards. We have 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, 3 copies of El Shaddoll Fusion, not 3 copies, but 1 copy of the new Shaddoll Fusion, Shaddoll Schism, so just 1 copy of that. Then we have 3 copies of Shaddoll Squamata, 3 copies of Windy, 1 copy of Ariel, 1 Hedgehog, 1 Falco, 1 Beast, and then finally 1 Shaddoll Incarnation. And so this is the entire Shaddoll lineup that we're playing. It is 18 cards, and the reason why I chose this lineup of Shaddoll cards is because your Shaddoll Fusion cards, your Fusion spells, as well as the actual Fusion monsters in your extra deck are all so powerful that I really wanted to optimize for that within this deck. And so cards like Winda are completely auto wins against a lot of combo decks and against a lot of decks in general. It's very difficult to deal with a Winda, stopping your opponent from special summoning multiple times while also being impervious to your opponent's card destruction. So that's a very good card, and we can summon it very easily within this deck. But also, the engine itself is just very hard to get around because you have Schism giving you advantage every single turn while dealing with the opponent's boards. You can use Incarnation to keep bringing stuff back from the graveyard. You're dumping Squamata and Windy to keep tutoring these other cards out of your deck. It's just a very powerful engine that I really want to optimize for in this deck, because it's something that other decks aren't quite able to deal with in this format right now, or at least as it seems to be right now, because we did just get a ban list. But I do like the Shaddolls a lot, and I do think that they are a very powerful engine. If I were to make any changes to this lineup, it would probably be adding a second copy of Beast, because this is the one card in the engine that I see myself really wanting to go into more. Like, pretty much whenever I have the opportunity to use Squamata, I'm almost always extending plays by dumping like one of the spell or traps, or I'm dumping Beast. And so I definitely would like to play a second copy of it. And even though it's a level 5 monster, that makes it kind of difficult to use in hand. Most of the time you're just fusing in hand anyways, and so it being a level 5 monster doesn't really matter that much. And so I'm definitely going to be considering a second copy of Beast. And if you think that there's something to take out, some changes that you would like to make, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I'm definitely open to any and all suggestions. But that's pretty much it for the Shaddoll lineup. Moving into the Invoked cards, you play 3 copies of Magical Meltdown, 3 copies of Alister, and then finally 3 copies of Invocation. And so we are maxing out on the Invoked lineup, and it's actually really powerful, and there's a ton of synergy between the Invoked engine and the Shaddoll engine, because for each of these cards really, but starting with Meltdown does also protect your Shaddoll fusions from your opponent's interactions, and so it allows you to just go into your like construct. They won't be able to respond to the effect, and they won't be able to negate your Shaddoll fusions either, so that's really big. And then Alister is big because the Shaddoll engine doesn't really have any good normal summons. It doesn't really have many starter cards either, and Alister is a great way to get your plays going, because Alister itself can search a fusion because it can search Invocation, which can be used for Shaddoll fusions, but also it gives you access to a dark monster in itself, or you can use it to go into Almirage and then Secure Gartna, and Secure Gartna is a light. And so Alister can provide you with a light monster, a dark monster, or a fusion spell. And so it really sets you up to summon your Winda, your Construct, or anything else. Just a really great card for both the Shaddoll engine as well as the Invoked engine, because you obviously could also just use this to go into Makaba. And so that's pretty amazing. So a ton of synergy between these 2 archetypes. Then for the Dogmatika engine, we play 3 copies of Nadir Servant, best card from Rise of the Duelist, 2 copies of Ecclesia, 1 Maximus, 1 Fleur de Lis, and then 1 copy of Punishment. And so a relatively small Dogmatika lineup. The main thing that I wanted to focus on was Nadir Servant, because this is the main engine card for your Shaddolls, because this is what you can use to send copies of App Cologne to the graveyard, and then use App Cologne's effect to add a Shaddoll card to your hand, discard another one, so that can trigger your Shaddoll effects. And that really turns the Dear Servant into like a Dogmatika Shaddoll Engage type of card, to where you're activating it, using it to search maybe an Ecclesia, then you can use it to dump App Cologne the search beast, discard beast, and draw. So you're searching a card and then drawing. That's pretty good. Or maybe you don't want to use beast, maybe instead you want to like add a Shaddoll monster to your hands because you have a fusion. You could do that as well. And so there's so many cool things that you can do with Nadir Servant with App Cologne that again, it really brings each of these archetypes together, because you could also use them to just dump things like Intist or Omega to recycle things. There's just a lot that you can do with Servant that it's really the main focal point of the Dogmatika engine. And then we do have Ecclesia, which is a great addition to a lot of the combos that you do. Like you can do your regular Shaddoll combo or your regular Invoked combo, slap an Ecclesia on board and add more disruption. So that's always good. So you have, once again, the 1 floor release, 1 punishment, extra disruption. But then we also have the Maximus. And Maximus is interesting in this deck because it kind of is in line with Nadir Servant, to where it's dumping App Cologne to get your Shaddoll engine going, but at the same time, you need some setup to get it to work. And so it's kind of tricky in that regard, because your Shaddolls generally aren't able to get extra deck monsters in the graveyard on their own. The Invoked Engine is, so if you open up with like Alister Maximus, that works. But if you open up a bunch of Shaddoll monsters, a Shaddoll Fusion and Maximus, that doesn't work. And so it's kind of interesting, the interactions between them, but Maximus does help when you are able to use it. And when you can, it's just very difficult for opponents to deal with, because you get so many things working for you. So Maximus is a great card, a good addition to the deck. And then to finish up the main deck, the final 6 cards are 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talents, and then 3 copies of Forbidden Droplets. And so this is a 41 card deck, and I really do like both of these cards in this deck in particular, because, well, for Forbidden Droplets, this deck is insane going seconds, and Droplets just makes it so that when you are going second, you don't have to deal with whatever your opponent put on the board. And so, for example, Shaddoll Fusion on its own is an OTK, like this is over 8,000 damage by itself when it resolves, and Forbidden Droplets ensures that you're able to maybe negate a Herald or something, or a Savage Dragon, so that you're going to be able to actually use your Shaddoll Fusion and then go for game. So Droplets plus Shaddoll Fusion's game. It's also game if you have it with like an Alister or a Meltdown, because with this you can use Alister as the cost for Forbidden Droplets, so that your opponent can't respond with monsters, and then you just go into a Purgatrio and you just like attack over their entire board with Purgatrio, and it's probably going to be huge going second. Their attacks are all half because of Droplets too. So this is usually like an OTK as well. And so really the dream hand is when you open like Droplets, Alister, and Shaddoll Fusion going second. That's just like an not an FTK because you're going second, but it's an OTK, and it's absolutely incredible. It's just, in general, this deck is great at going second, even if you don't open with a card like Shaddoll Fusion, but you have Droplets, a bunch of monsters, and an L Shaddoll Fusion. You can fuse for maybe a Construct, dump Shaddoll Fusion, add it back, and then Shaddoll Fusion. There's just a ton of really cool plays that you can do once you don't have to worry about your opponent's board. And so Droplets makes going second very easy in this deck. And as you can tell, there are no hand traps. And one of the reasons why I chose to not play them is because a singular hand trap in this deck is just not going to be impactful enough, and I didn't have the space to play the requisite amount of copies to ensure I draw 2. But I can draw 1 copy of a Droplets, and that be what allows me to win the game, versus if I draw 1 copy of Ash and Shaddoll Fusion, well, they just negate my Shaddoll Fusion because they play through the Ash, and so that does nothing. So I definitely like this a lot. And Droplets, not Droplets, but Triple Tack is great when you're going first, and so when your opponent tries to disrupt your plays, you can just, let them, but then you use the effect, you draw 2, and maybe you draw into that invocation that you were going to search anyways, or you draw into Nadir Servant, which is even better, or a Shaddoll Fusion, or something else. Like, you have so many power cards in this deck that being able to draw into them is completely fine, even if your opponent hand traps you. It's whatever. And then if you do already have combo, ripping a card from the opponent's hand will make your board that much stronger. Like, it's very difficult for your opponent to deal with Makaba plus Winda when they're down 2 cards, like the hand trap they use, as well as whatever you're sniping from their hand with the Triple Tack. And so both of these cards are incredible. They're both outs to Dragoon as well. So if Dragoon becomes more of a problem within the meta, both of these answer it very well. And so once again, these are great cards that I think are more impactful than any singular hand trap would be. And that's why I chose them over hand traps right now. But if you guys don't want to play these cards or don't have access to them, some good replacements for Droplets would be Dark Ruler No More. It does effectively the same thing, except it doesn't have the attack and the opponent doesn't take damage. So OTKing doesn't happen, but at least you're going to be able to crack their board. Like, maybe you negate all of their monsters, go on the Purga Trio, clear the board, and the opponent isn't going to be able to follow up because they lost everything. And so, even though you're not going for game, it's still a very good replacement. Something else could be maybe some Kaijus to at least deal with 1 or 2 problem monsters. They won't be able to respond. And then it also deals with Buster Destruction Sword better than either of these cards do. And so, that's another option. Or you could just go with staple hand traps. Cosmic Cyclone would be a good choice. You could also... no, not that. Yeah, Cosmic Cyclone, hand traps, those are also good choices. But really, these are flex spots, and so the deck is going to function just fine without them. They're just nice to have. So whatever you want to play instead works. You know, these are just what I think are the best options. Alright, so that is pretty much it for the main deck. Once again, it is 41 cards. And before getting into the extra deck, I do just want to mention a few of the interactions that I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, because it's what allows the deck to function at a higher level than each of these archetypes would individually once again. And so some of the really cool interactions and synergies, I mentioned some of them before, such as like using Invocation for Shaddoll fusions, Meltdown to protect Shaddoll fusions, stuff like that. But there are some other ones that I didn't get a chance to go over, such as the interactions between Alister or Ecclesia with El Shaddoll Fusion. And so one really cool thing that I like to do is use El Shaddoll Fusion to play around targeting effects and targeting disruption. And so if your opponent has like a Veiler or an Imperm and they try to stop either your Alister or your Ecclesia, what you can do is just chain El Shaddoll Fusion, fusing it with like a Skolmata or any other Shaddoll monster, go into like a Winda in this case, or a Construct in Ecclesia's case, and then that's going to allow you to dodge that Imperm or dodge that Veiler and allow your effect to resolve. And so with your Alister, for example, you can still search your Invocation and still use it and then go off. Or with Ecclesia, you can still search like your Punishment or, you know, whatever you were going to search, and your opponent just ends up wasting an Imperm or Veiler. And so that's a really cool interaction that I like between the archetypes. Something else I really like a lot is the interaction between Schism and then your Invoked Engine. And so when you're recycling with your Invoked Engine, the way Invocation works is you need your Alister to be banished and Invocation in the graveyard. But when you use Invocation on Shaddoll monsters, your Alister is not getting invoked, and so you're not able to recycle it with your Invocation. And that can be a big issue because it kind of cuts you off from one of your efficiency engines. And so it's very difficult to grind out when you don't have that going. But what you can do with Schism, though, is you can use Schism to banish the Alister from your graveyard to summon a Winda with another Shaddoll monster, of course. And then now that it's banished, if you have the Invocation in your grave, you can now start shuffling it back, adding Alister back to your hand, and you can get your Invoked Engine going again. So that's a really cool way to keep both of your engines going. So I definitely like that play a lot. One final interaction that I want to share with you guys before moving on to the rest of the video is the interaction between Cross Sheep and then Ecclesia, because you can use Cross Sheep's effect to special summon Ecclesia and then use Ecclesia's effect to search, you know, whatever you want to search. But the really cool thing is that you can do this on both your turn and your opponent's, and you can use this to get multiple searches out of your Ecclesia. And usually when you do this, you just gain so much advantage that it's hard to lose at that point. But it's really cool when you're able to like start with a Cross Sheep on your turn, fuse into like a Makaba, then use Cross Sheep to revive Ecclesia, use Ecclesia to search Punishment, and then on your opponent's turn, you've got Punishment Makaba that your opponent has to play through. But then, what you can also do if you have, let's say, like an El Shaddoll Fusion or something too, on your opponent's turn, if you don't use the Punishment, of course, you can fuse your Ecclesia with some Shaddoll monster in your hand, go into like a Construct, and then you can use Cross Sheep again on your opponent's turn. Revive the Ecclesia. This time search like a Fleur de Lis maybe, so now you also have this as disruption. Then you also get Construct's effect to dump something, and it really just snowballs out of control here. And if your opponent can't deal with all of this, then on your opponent's turn you might fuse again into something else, Cross Sheep revive Ecclesia again, to get another search, maybe you search Maximus this time, and you can really just put a lot of damage and a lot of resources on the board and just snowball your opponent and just run them over. And I think it's really cool that you can start like gaining so much advantage from both your fusions and your Dogmatika cards at the same time. So I really like this a lot, and I'm going to show you guys another example of this once we get into the combo portion of this video, because there's a really cool combo that you can do to abuse this. Moving on to the extra deck, we play one copy of Shaddoll Winda. I really do want to play a second copy, but I find that one copy is 9 times out of 10 enough to win the game. Just got to be careful with it. 2 copies of App Cologne, because This is what you're sending to the graveyard most of the time with your punishment and your Nadir Servant. You definitely want multiple copies, but also it's great to just summon on your opponent's turn sometimes with an El Shaddoll Fusion or a Schism just to negate something. That comes up too. So App Clone's great for many reasons. 2 copies of Construct. Wait a minute, I just mixed these up. These are the 2 app clones and these are the 2 constructs, but nonetheless 2 constructs. Construct is great for obvious reasons, gets your Shaddoll engine going, allowing you to have access to any singular Shaddoll card, dumping it to the graveyard, triggering the effect, and then also adding things back from the grave when it hits the grave. And so Construct is great. You could definitely go up to 3, but space is just very tight in here because we are playing the extra deck monsters for 3 whole archetypes, and so it's very difficult to fit everything in. But I do like this lineup a lot, for the Shaddolls at least. Then for the invoked cards, we are playing 2 copies of Mechaba, 1 Algoides, and then 1 Purgatrio. I don't know where I put it though. I just had it a second ago. There's also a Purgatrio, I promise. Here it is. 1 Purgatrio. So only 4 invoked monsters. I am thinking about cutting the second Mechaba, but it really comes up a lot when you're grinding out, and it's so easy to summon once you have access to the first. And so I don't want to cut it, but I do really want to play that second Winda and or the third construct. So it's very difficult to find space in this deck for other things. But that's it for the invoked lineup. Another thing I do want to mention about Algoides is that the effect is not just like the second effect. Does not only apply to invoked fusion monsters, you can also banish your Shaddoll fusion monsters for it to gain more attack and then be able to push for more damage. And so this can be a great way to go for games sometimes, where you use the effect to banish a construct. It gains 2800 attack plus an Alister, and that goes up to 6800 attack. You can do a lot of damage with this card, so that's huge. Then finally we play 1 copy of Intis, 1 copy of Omega, 1 Almirage, Secure Gardena, Cross Sheep, and then Axis Code Talker. So Omega is a card that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a blank in a lot of cases because it does take up space in the extra deck, which I've already mentioned a billion times is very tight. But at the same time, it's the one card that allows you to play low copies of other cards because you have the option of shuffling them back and using them again. Like you can shuffle back a Winda and summon it again, or an Mechaba, or a whatever you want to reuse. Omega allows you to do that, and so I do really like Omega in this deck, but at the same time it could also just be that second copy of whatever it is. So tricky situation here. And then the obvious link monsters for various plays. Access code is maybe the only one you don't need. Like if you don't have access code, you'd be completely fine, but I do like it because it's what allows your Shaddoll Fusion to be an OTK going second. It ends with access code, and so it's very important for that in my opinion. But if you don't have it, that's also fine. It could also just be like the second Winda or the third construct or something like that. It would be very useful. I'm also considering playing the Alister Link monster. I think that's also pretty good in this deck because once again the Shaddoll Fusions can trigger the effect, so that would be a nice addition, but you don't really need it. It would just be maybe nice. But this is pretty much it for the extra deck. And then moving on to the side deck, we are playing 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum, 1 copy of Scythe. This deck is able to utilize the Artifact Engine better than most in my opinion because you are able to also side a copy of Shaddoll Dragon, which you can use to pop Scythe if you draw it. So that can be really cool. Dragon's also really good against back row decks, which for those we also side 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone as well as a Red Reboot. These are also pretty good against Outlich because you can banish their Golden Land cards as well as their Outlixirs, and then Red Reboot can at least, well, you probably don't side this against Outlich because if you aren't able to go for game, giving them advantage is a death sentence, and so I don't really like it in that matchup, but in general it's a really good card for back row heavy decks like Guru or stuff like that, Altergeist. And then when going second, I side 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More and then 3 copies of Nibiru. And Nibiru is a tricky one because the last format it wasn't that good because so many combo decks were able to just play around it, but right now after the list it's going to be more difficult for decks like Adamanticators to play around it because they don't have Block Dragon. Synchro Outlich probably does not exist anymore, so they're definitely not playing around it, and if they do try to exist again, like maybe using some other combo they don't have O-Line, and O-Line is what allowed them to play through Nib, and so that's a big loss. So I do think that Nib's going to be able to make a comeback this format, and people have stopped playing around it, and now that that's the case, it's going to be very powerful in the early stages of this new format. So I do like Nib a lot, both in the side and in the main, but obviously I'm not playing any hand traps in the main. But if I were to play any hand traps, first and foremost, it would be this one. So I do like Nib a lot in the side so far, but it's tough to say so early on in the format, and with it being so early in this format, you can side really whatever you want. There's so many great options. Just try things out and see what you like. But that is pretty much it for the profile. Now, what I do want to show you guys next is one combo. I know you guys already know the Alister plus Nadir Servant combo. I've done that in many other videos. You guys have seen it all over the internet or YouTube or wherever. But I want to show you guys a different combo. Alright, so moving into the combo portion of this video, the first combo that I want to show you guys is between one copy of Shaddoll Fusion and then one Alister, and your opponent is going to have an extra deck monster on board, but this combo is going to allow you to do close to 15,000 points of damage. Yes, 15,000, nearly doubled your opponent's starting life points, and so this is an incredibly powerful combo, and so let's just go ahead and get into it, because it's almost always going to be game. It's just absurd. This is why Droplets and Dark Ruler are so good in this deck, because if you draw these cards with your Dark Ruler or your Droplets, you just win. And so this is how the combo works. So you're going to start by just normal summoning your copy of Alister, using Alister's effect to search for a copy of Invocation. Next, you can link the Alister into a Almirage. Then you can activate your copy of Shaddoll Fusion, and you want to fuse from deck, of course, and so we are going to be fusing for a copy of Construct. Almirage, of course, needs to be in the link zone, not the main monster zone, but it's kind of hard to fit everything in the frame, so just bear with me here. But we're fusing from the deck for Construct, and we are going to be sending a Squamata and then a Ecclesia to the graveyard for that fusion summon. So now we're going to be able to activate our Constructs effect and then the Squamata's effect. The Invocation is still in hand, by the way. So we're going to use the Construct and Squamata in any order. It doesn't really matter since they do the exact same thing here. And we're going to send copies of Windy and Incarnation to the graveyard. Then we're going to be able to trigger Windy's effect, and we're going to use Windy to special summon a copy of Aerial in face down defense. Now what we can do is link the Almirage and the Construct in the cross sheet. Activate activate Construct's effect to add back our Shaddoll Fusion back to our hand. And now we're going to activate our copy of Invocation. So with Invocation, we are going to fuse for a Makaba here, and then we're going to use the Alister and the Construct in the graveyard. So we're going to banish the Construct and banish the Alister. And now that we summoned the Makaba to a zone that Cross Sheep points to, we can activate Cross Sheep's effect. And we're going to use that to revive a copy of Squamata. And you want to summon an attack, by the way, because we're trying to do the most damage possible here. So now we have Cross Sheep, Squamata, Makaba, face down Aerial, and then we have Shaddoll Fusion in hand, but we've already activated it, so we can't really use this again this turn. So now what we're going to do is activate our Invocation effect. So we shuffle back Invocation into our deck and then add the Makaba back to hand. So now we have Fusion and Alister in hand. Now we can activate the Shaddoll Incarnation that we have in our graveyard. We can banish this and the Windy to flip the Aerial on our side of the field face up. So we're going to flip the Aerial and then activate Aerial's flip effect to special summon a copy of Construct from the banished zone. So now when this Construct is summoned, we can use Construct's effect, and we want to dump a copy of El Shaddoll Fusion to the graveyard. So dump El Shaddoll Fusion to the graveyard. Now we can link the Aerial, the Construct, the Cross Sheep, all into a copy of Access Code Talker. And now on summon, you want to use Access Code Talker's effect to target the cross sheep in your graveyard so that it gains 2000 attack. So now you have access code talker. Oh, and you also want to use Construct's effect. Can't forget that. That's very important. Construct's effect will add back the Shaddol fusion. But so now you have access code talker at 4300 attack, Mikaba at 25, Skomata at 18, and then you have Shaddol fusion, Shaddol fusion, and Alister in hand. So what you can do from here is use access code's effect. You can banish up to 2 in your graveyard. You have Almirage and Cross Sheep to destroy up to 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field. Hopefully that clears the way for you to attack directly. And then you've got 43, 18, 25. You can also use Alister's effect to boost the Mikaba up to 35. And after everything's attacked, you can use Shaddol fusion to fuse the Mikaba and the Skomata into a second copy of Construct. And then you can attack directly with this Construct too for even more damage. And so if I did the math correctly, it's 43, like of everything, it's 43, 18, 25, and then an extra 1,000 for Alister, and that equals 12,700. 12,400. Yeah, 12,400 damage. So not close to the 15,000, but the way we can increase the amount of damage we can do is instead of fusing for the Mikaba, we can also just fusion for an Algoides. And so this would also give us a way to destroy another monster on the opponent's side of the field when it's summoned, but also we can use its second effect to banish a construct from the graveyard, and then we can gain 2,800 attack for that. So that will put this at 48, and then we can use the Alister to again go to 58. And if we do it like this with the access code talker, Algoides at 58, Skomata, and then we use Shaddol fusion to fuse the Algoides and the Skomata into another copy of Construct, that equals 14,700 damage. So yeah, very close to 15,000. So this combo allows you to do a ton of damage when you're going second. And so even if your opponent has a board, you're very likely still going to be able to attack into it. If you can't clear all the monsters, you're at least going to be able to attack into it and put massive amounts of damage on board. So this is a really strong combo going second. But in this next combo, I'm going to show you something interesting that you can do going first. For the next combo, you're going to need 1 copy of Alister, 1 Ecclesia, and then just some Shaddol monsters. And it's really nice when one of them is windy, that way you can use it to summon App Cologne and then go into some different plays like that. But this is a lot less of a combo and more of just a demonstration of what you can do when you open Alister, Ecclesia, and then a bunch of Shaddol monsters. And so what you can do in this type of hand is to start by normal summoning the Alister, activating Alister's effect to search a invocation. Next, you can link your Alister into a copy of Almirage. Activate Ecclesia's effect to special summon itself. Don't use the effect here, that way you're not locked out of the extra deck. We're only using Ecclesia as an extender in this case. So no effect, just special summon it. Then from here we can link both of these into a copy of Cross Sheep. Now we can activate the invocation in our hand to fuse with the Shaddol monsters in our hand. So we can fuse, in this case, the Windy and the Skomata. So invocation, fuse the Windy and the Skomata, and we're going to go into a copy of App Cologne. Down from here we can trigger Windy and Skomata's graveyard effects. We can use those to dump a Incarnation as well as... well, Skomata will dump Incarnation, and then Windy can special summon a Hedgehog in face down defense. So Hedgehog face down, Incarnation to the graveyard. So now we can activate the Incarnation in our graveyard. We can banish this and any of our Shaddol monsters, let's say the Windy. So banish Incarnation, Windy. Use this to flip the Hedgehog. Activate Hedgehog's effect to search for a copy of Shaddol Fusion. And then now we can activate the Shaddol Fusion to fuse the App Cologne and the Hedgehog. Fuse those into a copy of Winda, and now we can activate Cross Sheep and Winda's effect. Or not Winda, but App Cologne. Cross Sheep and App Cologne's effect. And so we can use the Cross Sheep to special summon our copy of Ecclesia, and then App Cologne we can use to search a copy of Shaddol Fusion, and then discard some other random thing in our hand. And then with the Ecclesia, we can use that to search a copy of Dogmatika Punishment. And so then on the end of our turn, we could set the Shadddoll Fusion and the Punishment, and then we'd have Winda, Ecclesia, and Cross Sheep. So the opponent's going to have a very tough board to deal with in this case, and it's definitely better than just like a Macabre, which we would have if we just went through the standard invoked play. And so what else we could do is on the opponent's turn, if let's say they can't deal with the Winda, then we can break our own Winda lock so that we can special summon again. We can do that by using Shadddoll Fusion with the Winda and the Ecclesia on the opponent's turn once again. So they weren't able to play through Winda, we're trying to extend again. So what we can do is on their turn, Shadddoll Fusion away the Ecclesia and the Winda, go into a construct, and then activate construct Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep can special summon back the Ecclesia. Construct can dump like a beast or something to draw an extra card. Ecclesia can search, let's say a Fleur de Lis. And also when Winda hits the grave, Winda is going to allow you to add back a Shadddoll spell or trap, so you can add back like your L again. So then on your opponent's turn, you can on your next turn I should say, you can special summon your Fleur de Lis and then try to push for damage like this. So you'd have 28, 700, Fleur de Lis's effect will boost it up to 3000, and then your Ecclesia up to 2000. So you've already got 5000, 78, 8500 damage on board, but you can still push even more because you added back that Shadddoll Fusion. So you can use this, fuse with Construct and Ecclesia into a second Construct, and then activate the Cross Sheep and Construct's effects, and then you can add back like the L again or your regular Shadddoll Fusion. Cross Sheep can special back the Ecclesia. That can search something again, like you can search your copy of maybe Maximus this time, or a second whatever. But then you can push for more damage and attack with both of these again. So you can go for another 15, another 28. So this combo is able to stop your opponent on your first turn, but then set up for you to do massive amounts of damage on the other turn by resolving your Cross Sheep on Ecclesia multiple times to get a bunch of searches out of it. And so this is a really neat combo, and I kind of alluded to it earlier when I was talking about that interaction between Cross Sheep and Ecclesia. It definitely does come up, and even though the starting hand in this case was kind of convoluted, it was like 4 different cards, we used every single card in the hand, but it happens in a lot of different hands really. And especially in grind games, when you're able to go in the Cross Sheep and then protect it, you're really going to get a lot of value out of it. And so it's a really cool interaction that you definitely want to keep in mind. And now in this video, I definitely tried to focus on the combos that utilized all 3 of the engines together. But I do want to let you guys know that there are other combos as well. Like there's smaller combos that you can do with just Nadir's Servant, or Nadir's Servant plus Alister, or Ecclesia just plus Alister and nothing else. And if you guys want to see those combos, check out the Dogmatika Invoked video I did a while back. Not that long ago, like a few weeks ago. But in that video, I talked about all of just the Dogma Invoked combos. And that way you can get some of that as well as these combos. And then maybe I'll make another video for more Shaddoll combos as well. But let me know if you guys would be interested in that. But that is pretty much it for the combo portion of this video. I just wanted to show you guys those 2 really cool, unique plays that you could only do in a deck like this really. But I just wanted to show you guys what this deck can do. But alright guys, that's pretty much it for this Dogmatika Invoked Shaddoll deck. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, tips, tricks, let me know down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. If you have tried something similar or are playing something similar, let me know how your deck is different, what you like, what you don't like, and generally how we can improve with this deck, because I'm always interested in learning from you guys as well. And so let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video.